At the beginning of the story, we see a wooden house in the middle of the jungle where a woman named Moma lives with her two children, Nolan and Samuel. Whenever they step out of the house, a rope is tied to their bodies with the other end attached to the house. The world has completely changed. Many years ago, an entity attacked humanity, wiping out most humans. Now only a few people remain. Moma tells her children that an entity known as the Evil surrounds their home. This house was built by her grandfather using special powers, making it immune to the entity's attacks. She recalls that once her mother stepped outside and was attacked by the entity. But because she was tied to a rope, she managed to survive. Although Nolan and Samuel have never seen the entity, Moma insists that she has, and her children believe her. That's why, whenever they go outside to find food, they always keep themselves tied with ropes. The next morning, they leave the house to gather food, all secured with ropes. Even their dog is tied to one. Moma goes in a different direction, where she sees a man walking aimlessly. She immediately realizes that the entity has taken control of him, so she chooses to ignore him, as she has encountered similar things before. Meanwhile, Nolan discovers an egg in the jungle, but he can't reach them because his rope has now run out. To reach the eggs, he would need to untie the rope. The egg is just a few steps away from him. As he is about to untie his rope, his brother Samuel arrives and stops him from doing so. They then go in another direction to find food. Just then, Samuel says from behind, "Mom loves me more than you." Hearing this, Nolan feels very hurt. He asks, "What did you just say?" Samuel replies, "I didn't say anything." In reality, Samuel truly hadn't said anything, but Nolan doesn't believe him, so he steps on Samuel's rope. When Samuel moves forward, he falls down, causing his rope to untie. Now seeing his brother without a rope, Nolan gets scared. To help him, he unties his own rope and climbs down. At the same time, he blows a whistle, which is a danger signal. Their mom hears the sound, and suddenly a very strange-looking lady starts approaching them. But before she can harm the children, their mother reaches them, pulls them up, and ties them with the rope. After that, the strange lady starts growling into their mother's ear. But the weird thing is that the children cannot see her. Only their mother can. Moma takes both children back home, scolds them, and warns, "Never untie your rope outside again." She then tells them a story. "When I was little, my rope also ran out. Just a short distance away, there was a little girl, badly injured, asking for my help. But I realized she wasn't a human. She was the evil one trying to trap me." And even today, I can hear his voice. Nolan doesn't believe his mom's words because he has never seen any entity in the jungle or outside the house. He wants to get out of here and see the outside world. At night, when both brothers are in their room, Nolan tells his brother Samuel that they should go outside without a rope. "Today we went without a rope, but nothing happened to us." Samuel replies, "Mom saved us. We should believe what she says." Nolan then asks his brother Samuel, "Why did Mom kill Dad, Grandpa, and Grandma?" Samuel explains, "Because that entity, the evil, had taken control of them, and Mom had to kill them. Otherwise, they would have killed us. Mom did it to save us." But Nolan's doubts about his mother only grow stronger. He feels that there is no truth in what she is saying. Meanwhile, we see Mom outside, and just then, her husband appears, even though he is already dead. Actually, the entity manipulates humans, and that's why it has appeared in front of Mom in the form of her husband, to manipulate her. It says to Mom, "Do you remember how much good time we spent together?" Mom replies, "I have no interest in the past. I only want to protect my children." And then her husband, that is the entity, says, "You won't be able to save them. Very soon I will take control of them." Hearing this, the mother gets scared and goes inside the house. The next morning, while she is working with her son Nolan, he notices a snake tattoo on his mother's bag. This tattoo is the symbol of that same entity, the evil. He asks his mom about the tattoo, which irritates her, and she responds, "I got this tattoo when that entity did not exist in this world." At night, Nolan, who has a habit of sleepwalking, is tied with a bell on his foot by his mom for safety so that he doesn't leave the house. One night, he dreams that someone in the jungle is pulling his rope, dragging him along with it, and eventually pushing him into a well where a creature like Sham appears before him. The next moment, he wakes up and realizes that he has sleepwalked outside the house. However, There is no rope tied to his foot. He then sees his dog in front of him and starts walking towards it. Just then, his mom arrives, takes him inside, and locks him in the basement. She tells him, "You need to pray so that if any evil energy has entered you, it will leave the house." In fact, whenever someone mistakenly steps outside without a rope, his mom does the same, locking them in the basement and making them pray. Now Nolan is completely convinced that there is no entity or evil outside. It's just his mom's imagination. So he tells his brother Samuel, "The time has come. We need to go out and get help because we have nothing left to eat." Moma understands both of their thoughts. She knows that they are very upset because of the food situation. So today she shows them a camera, allowing them to take their own pictures. Both of them see such a device for the first time in their lives, which makes them very happy. Then Moma tells them that they have to kill their dog for food. Hearing this, Nolan becomes extremely angry because he loves his dog very much. He tells his mom that he will not let anyone kill his dog at any cost. His mom then takes the dog outside to another storage room where she plans to kill it. Enraged, Nolan steps outside without a rope and says, "Look, there's no creature outside." He also cuts his mom's rope, which terrifies her. The dog runs away as well. His mom tries to get back inside the house, but Nolan locks the door from the outside. He wants to prove to her that there is no evil in the outside world. Moma bangs on the glass from outside, but Nolan refuses to open the door. Just then, Samuel arrives. When he realizes that Nolan has locked Moma inside, a fight breaks out between them. Meanwhile, inside the storage room, an evil entity appears before Moma in the form of her mother-in-law. The entity says, "Now I will take control of you, and you will end up killing your own children." Hearing this, Moma becomes extremely terrified. And before the entity takes control of her, she ends her own life to prevent it from harming her children. Now Nolan and Samuel enter the storeroom, where they find that their mother has passed away. Seeing this, Samuel panics and falls ill. Because of this, from the next day, Nolan goes out alone to find food. He ties his mother's and brother's ropes together to extend the length significantly, allowing him to reach the road. However, there is nothing on the road, just silence all around, so he returns home. Just then, a man arrives and tells Nolan, "I'm a hiker. I saw you walking through the forest, so I came here. What are you doing here?" Nolan explains that his mother has died and that his brother is very sick and starving. The hiker says he has food, but before he can give it to Nolan, Samuel attacks him from a distance with a crossbow, injuring him. The hiker runs away and Nolan chases after him. In the forest, Nolan finds the hiker lying on the ground, holding his phone. He has called 911, which means the world hasn't ended. There are still people alive. Nolan takes the hiker's bag and returns home, finding it full of food. However, Samuel still believes the hiker was the entity, an evil being, but hunger forces him to eat the food anyway. Later, Samuel checks the hiker's bag and finds a wallet with a photo of a child inside. This makes him realize the hiker was a real human, not an entity. He has killed an innocent person, and guilt overwhelms him. At night, he sits outside just like his mom used to. Suddenly, he hears a sound coming from the same storeroom where his mom had died. He has a hiker's torch with him, so he picks it up and heads in that direction. Just then, he sees the same little girl whose photo he had seen in the wallet. She asks, "Have you seen my dad?" "He came this way." And then she notices the torch in Samuel's hand. It belongs to her dad. Samuel says that her dad accidentally died. Hearing this, the girl runs toward the forest. Samuel chases after her, but his rope reaches its limit. He unties it and keeps running until he reaches a certain place. Suddenly, the girl vanishes. At that moment, Samuel sees a strange creature crawling on a tree in front of him. In the next instant, the creature drops right in front of him. It turns out that the girl was actually an evil entity. She takes control of Samuel. After that, Samuel returns home, completely under the evil's influence. He quietly sits on his bed. Just then, Nolan enters the room and sees a dark shadow looming over Samuel. He starts praying, just like their mom used to make them do in the basement. The prayer enrages Samuel. He locks his brother Nolan in a room and sets the entire house on fire before walking out. Nolan tries to escape through an upper passage, but it's not easy. Outside, Samuel sits calmly and says, "You won't be able to save this house now." Nolan is forced to go inside the house, where he comes face to face with his mom. He realizes that his mom was right. This is the same entity that killed her. So he grabs the entity and jumps into the basement, holding onto it tightly while praying continuously. This causes the entity immense pain, making it writhe in agony. It reveals its true form, and soon the entity, the demon, is destroyed. Outside, Samuel, who has a camera, takes a picture of himself. A few hours later, when the entire house burns down, a rescue team arrives. This happens because a hiker had called 911, which led to the rescue team's arrival. They managed to rescue Nolan, and his brother is also there because he was saved as well. At that moment, Nolan says, "Mom loved me more than you." Then, the camera that Samuel used is shown. The photo he took has now printed out, and we see that there is a hand on Samuel's shoulder. It belongs to the same entity that had been appearing in different forms to their mom. Now the entity has completely taken control of Samuel's mind. The two brothers are taken to a city where real people live, despite their mom telling them that they were the only ones left in the world. However, the truth is different. Other people exist, but they know nothing about the entity. With this, the movie comes to an end. Which movie do you want to hear about next? Let me know in the comments below. Also, subscribe to this channel for more stories like this.